I did a lot of stupid things in school to entertain myself when I should have been working, and art class was my favorite. The class was organized by tables of four, and I had quickly made friends with the other guys that sat with me. We were the goth and grunge kids, so we were all pretty creative. The teacher would let us mess around a lot because he liked what we turned in at the end of the day. One of my favorite things to do was to throw tiny beads across the room and wait to see if I could hear it hit the ground. I almost never could hear or see them ever touch the ground. So we would all jokingly say that the beads would open a tiny portal to another dimension before hitting the ground. Over the next couple of years, we kept adding to the idea, saying things like, "Every time you think of something dark or scary, but you forget it, it's erased from our dimension and spawns in the bead dimension instantly," filling the dimension with things that we can hardly imagine because we can't remember what exactly they were, only making them scarier. Because the thing that scares me the most is the things I can't fully understand. We would run into each other from time to time and say things like, "I imagined a horrible monster the other day, but now I can't remember it exactly. Guess it's in the bead dimension now." However, after a few years, we all graduated and went our separate ways and forgot about the joke. After high school ended, I had gotten a small house in my small town and tried starting a small life. However, things had been hard and I was stuck in a rundown home that I hadn't had the money to fix. So I simply did what everyone in my small town did, and that's everything I could to escape reality and slowly work myself to death, until one day I received a letter in my mailbox. It was a letter to win a new home, a letter that felt like a scam in every way. It was addressed directly to me and not to the current residents like a lot of other scams tend to be. So after some research, I found nothing to support my scam theory. However, there was little to be found about the contest at all. The only real information I could find was about the neighborhood where the new home was, 667 Gehenna Street. After deciding that it was all just a scam, I just threw the letter in the trash and continued on with my life. After a couple of days, I had completely forgotten about the letter and decided that instead of becoming a victim of what I'm sure is a scam, I was going to try to fix up my own home. Then everything seemed to get worse. The list of things that needed fixed began to grow. My basement flooded, my roof caved in, and now I have the neighbors hating me for dropping their home values. So as I'm doing my best to get my dilapidated house back in order, I can't help but feel like someone is watching me. I had finally got the pump that I needed to drain out my flooded basement. I set up the pump and left for another part of the very small house to watch a movie. Being such a small house, I can hear the pump suck something up and get clogged. Not being able to shake the feeling of being watched, I checked to see what was clogging the pump. I assumed it was just something nasty that had been floating around my basement, but what I pulled out I couldn't believe. It was that letter again. Not only do I vividly remember throwing it in the trash, but it's also somehow almost completely undamaged, even after being stuck in a water pump. The water almost seems to evaporate off of it, but it's not hot at all. The feeling of someone watching me has only gotten worse. But I'm convinced that it's only my angry neighbors that want me to move. I'm also starting to feel like this might actually be my only way out of my current situation. I took the letter to my room and stared at it for a while, trying to convince myself that it's not a scam and that I might actually get to move out of this house and up in my life. After staring at it for what felt like an eternity, I finally bribed myself to open it.
Hello there. Congratulations. You have been selected to participate in our latest homeowners contest. With this opportunity comes the chance to win a freshly built, forever home. All you have to do is enter to win and stay in the new home for 24 hours. The home is located in a freshly constructed community that has been built to last a lifetime, so come on in and stay a while. You may never want to leave. Come to 667 Gehenna Street on June 11th at noon for the start of the contest. Sincerely, a man of wealth and taste.
Feeling like this might be a stupid game set up by a YouTuber desperate to maintain internet significance, I decided to go. Because aren't we all just waiting for a famous YouTuber to come and save us from poverty at this point? Somehow, this new neighborhood is located in a place that I'm extremely familiar with, yet I've never seen or heard of any new construction happening nearby. The GPS only recognized it as being a single back road and not a whole neighborhood. However, sure enough, I found the gates impossibly wedged between an abandoned gas station and a sketchy liquor store. The gates were made of beautiful steel bars that didn't have a spot of rust on them in contrast to seemingly everything else around. They were also covered with plants that I'd never seen before, but were gorgeous and almost drew me into the gates. As I passed under the gates, I noticed that there was writing on the top of the gates that said, "Abandonate la speranza tutti voi chi entrate qui." This was not just a road. Somehow they had constructed a whole neighborhood of middle-class-looking cookie-cutter homes behind these gates. Immediately after passing under the gates, my GPS gave up along with any signal I had. But there was only one turn to take anyway. After the first, there was only a small handful of turns before we saw a balloon tied to a mailbox among the ocean of identical houses. The feeling that someone was watching me has gotten so bad that I have to constantly fight the urge to look over my shoulder. The mailbox was open with a letter slightly sticking out, but there's absolutely no one around, seemingly for miles, not even the sounds of far-off cars or anything living. Being early, I just sat in my car and watched the mailbox at a distance until about 11:55. Still, with no one around, I decided to get out and see what was on that letter. Still feeling like this is some kind of game set up by a YouTuber or something, I opened the letter.
Hello, contestant, and welcome to your new home. All you have to do to claim your new residence is to simply live in the house for 24 hours. At that point, you will come back to the mailbox to receive the deed to the home. The only rule is that you may not step foot out of the house until the 24 hours are up. The contest begins when you enter the home. Good luck.
Seems simple enough, but why am I the only one? I approached the door and turned the knob expecting to hear some kind of welcome, but still nothing. Not a person to be seen. Just a small welcome basket with some fruits and a watch at the foot of the door. Behind the basket ran a dark hallway that seemingly led to the rest of the house. The house was in complete darkness aside from the light at the end of the hall, so I pushed forward to examine the rest of the rooms when the door suddenly closed behind me. So it begins. To be continued.